Alrighty. Looks like I'm live on Facebook. Yay. No, YouTube. This is YouTube. This is Facebook. Right there. Okay, so it looks like my Facebook's ending up just being a little bit slower, mainly because they have changed how my Facebook stream is set up and being done. So we'll see how that goes. But I am on the U of tubes, the tube of U's. There we go. That is the right link. The camera did not, the link didn't when I went live. Okay. So let's see how this works. YouTube has a new, or Facebook has a new setup for their Facebook Live material. So we're going to see how that looks. Would love to get somebody to comment just to see if I can get the comments in there. YouTube as well. So today we're going to be discussing, gosh, that looks good. I'm sorry about the whiteness behind me. I'm in my room today. We had to move my modem because I'm working from home. So now my setup is different. So I will have to get things corrected. Okay, so my Facebook's just going to be a little wonky, and I apologize for that. It's just causing me a little bit of headaches here. Okay. Are you on the Facebook?
Me?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Can you post something for me?
Give me 1 second. It hasn't shown that you're live yet.
Seriously?
Mm-hmm.
Oh my gosh. Okay. All right. Well, let me see what we've got here. On my end, it says I've been live for 1 minute and 45 seconds.
It hasn't been showing it, but what do you want me to
post? Just, I want to be able to see if I can see the chat, so hi is fine. Let's do something crazy. We're going to open the door. Okay, so I can see your chat.
we can try. Hold the computer.
I'll hold the camera steady. We're on my bed, so every time she moves, it moves the camera and everything else. I don't want to have to start it over. Thank you. Sometimes that will change the internet access. So hopefully it's the internet access and I don't have to do something really dumb, but I might have to do something really dumb. Jessica Bain, am I feeling better? Okay, so I was diagnosed with pneumonia, which is terrible. And am I feeling better? Yes. Mentally, yes. I feel better knowing that I am diagnosed with something and now I have antibiotics and I'm being treated. I'm not breathing as well as I'd like to be. My throat's really raspy. As we get through this, you'll notice I have to stop every so once in a while and breathe deeply. And yeah, we'll see how that goes. Okay, so we're going to start in. Today we are talking about sacred water, which is cool. This was requested by Paco. I don't know if he has another name he likes to go by. Reno sometimes something else. Let me make this a little better so you're not seeing my mess. Okay. So that's just the way it's going to be. Okay, good to know. Forgive me while I adjust everything on the planet. All right. Sacred water, here we go. So this is actually coming from a we sat together and watched Frozen 2. And Frozen 2 has this wonderful song in there about a river of memory. And I had mentioned that I had heard the legend before.
It sounded familiar to me.
But it sounded familiar, yeah. And Kai says it sounded familiar to them as well. So, in my memory, this was a Icelandic, Norse, maybe even indigenous people, like Native American legend. So Paco asked that I do a speech on where I thought it came from and maybe other sacred wells and sacred waters, that kind of thing. So that's what we're talking about today. For most cultures, water is sacred, although not many of them have a certain place. A lot of the indigenous people, water is sacred. So if it's a well, that's natural. If it's a spring, it became sacred to their culture. We are about to be inundated by a cat, just so everyone's aware. So if you see an orange blur, that is Nutmeg. And there will be meowing because I'm in the bedroom and he's upset. So I won't let him lay on my laptops. So today we're going to discuss what I found. And like I said, if you're joining us, please comment. Facebook has a new live thing, and I don't know what's going on with it. And I'm going to see really hard about figuring it out. And if you're in YouTube, please comment. I know there's somebody there. I don't know who it is. So in most cases, the spring or the river acquired sacredness through a connection with a significant or miraculous event. The River Jordan, for instance, is not sacred because it's in the Holy Lands. The River Jordan is sacred because, the River Jordan is sacred because Jesus was baptized in it by St. John. So that is why the River Jordan is sacred. The spring at Lourdes is sacred because it has healing properties in connection with the appearance of the Virgin Mary to Saint Bernadette. In some cases, such as the Holy Well at Chartres or the Chalice Well at Glastonbury, these were already sacred in pagan times. So, and we're going to go over a little bit of those. But from Frozen 2, Otto Holland is the name of the Disney gives it. Say it again.
Otto Holland.
Otto Holland. Yeah? Okay. Many of the legends in Frozen and Frozen 2 come directly from Finnish Finnish myth and legend. The names of the people and the deities and the spirits, they were changed for the protection of the culture. But they had the permission of the indigenous people of the area called the Sami. Even portraying them loosely in the second movie, it is what spawned today's stream. The description for where the river of memory is located and how to get there and what it does fits many of the legends of the land of the dead, named Twanella. The land of the dead, it was an underground home or city of all the dead people, not only the good ones or the bad ones. It was it was dark and lifeless, and where everyone slept forever. Still, a brave shaman could travel to Twanella in a trance to ask for the forefathers' guidance. So this is their way of speaking with the dead, which is pretty cool. So that is the only Finnish or Sami or Icelandic legend I could find of water. No, I found several others for Norway.
Okay.
The Greeks, however, we're going to start there. The waters that sprung up around their oracles, like the river at Delphi. Well, it was a spring at Delphi. The oracle was said to have her prophetic visions because they drank from the spring, and the spring had been blessed by Apollo.
Being an oracle sounds terrifying.
It is.
It's dead, but it sounds fun at the same time.
There are supposedly 5 rivers in the realm of Hades, the ancient Greek lord of the underworld. Here, the rundown of those otherworldly waters and each of their powers. The Akron, which, although it was also the name of several rivers on Earth, literally means lack of joy.
So,
Yeah, known as the River of Woe, Akron was a place tied to bad folks. Charon ferried souls of the dead across Akron, and Plato, in the Phaedo, describes Akron as a lake to the shores of which the souls of many go when they are dead and awaiting an appointed time, which is to some longer and to some shorter. They are sent back again to be born as animals. Those who lived, Plato says, were rewarded according to the good that they did. Okay. And then there is, I'm going to horribly mess this up, Cocytus, whose name meant the River of Lamentation. It is a river that flows into the Akron, to the Acheron. It starts out as a branch of river number 5, the Styx. In his geography, Pausanias theorizes that Homer saw a bunch of ugly rivers in Thesprotia, including Cocytus, a most unlovely stream, and thought the area was so miserable that he named the rivers of Hades after them. And then there is Lethe, reported as a real-life body of water in modern-day Spain. Lethe was also the mythological river of forgetfulness. Lucian quotes the ghost of Julia in his Pharsalia. Me, not the oblivious banks of Lethe's stream, have made forgetful, as Horace quips that certain vintages make one more forgetful, and Lethe's true draught is Massic wine. There's another one here. It is the River of Burning. I'm not going to pronounce the Greek because I'm not that good at this. The River of Burning, where Aeneas ventures into the underworld. Virgil describes his fiery surroundings with treble walls, which Phlegethon surrounds, whose fiery flood the burning empire bounds. Plato also mentions it as a source of volcanic eruptions, as streams of lava which spout up at various places on Earth are offshoots from them. And then, of course, the river Styx, which is the most famous river, who is also a goddess by whom the gods swear their vows. Homer dubs her the dread river of oath in the Iliad. Of all the daughters of Oceanus, Theogony, she, according to Hesiod's Theogony, she is the chiefess of them all. When Styx allied herself with Zeus against the Titan, he appointed her to be the great oath of the gods and her children to live with him always. She is well known for being the river in which Thetis, the mother of Achilles, dipped her infant in order to make him immortal. But of course, Thetis forgot to dunk her baby's heel, allowing Paris to kill him with an arrow to the heel decades later at Troy. That's why that spot in the back of your heel where the tendon lays, that's called your Achilles heel. Because that's where she held him by these 2 fingers and dipped him in the water, because if she touched the water of the river Styx, she'd die. She only got to bathe Achilles. So that is the Greek rivers and sacred waters. There were 2 oracles, one to Apollo and one to Athena. I know the oracle of Apollo is Delphi, and the oracle of Athena is Belenus. And those are the 2 that also had holy wells and springs attached to them. Okay, and then we're moving on to the 3 wells of the Yggdrasil. The Norse cosmos owed their life to the Yggdrasil, the great tree of life. The Yggdrasil was the spine of the nine worlds, hosting many mystical and interesting creatures within it. And that is an entirely different speech, an entirely different stream. The creatures of the Yggdrasil, because that's a lot of fun. It was watered by 3 holy wells in unique ways. The wells of the Yggdrasil were and I'm going to slaughter these, so I apologize if you're Norse and expecting any kind of good Norse out of me. Erdar Burner, Vergelgemir, and Mimi's Burner. The first well, Erdar Burner, it was the first well that is believed to nourish the Yggdrasil. It is also known as the Well of Erd, hence the name. Inside this well lived the 3 Norns, Erd, Verdandi, and Skuld. The past, the present, and the future. The Greeks call them the Fates. These are associated with the powers of weaving the fates of all the creatures in the cosmos. The Norns watered the Yggdrasil daily so it would not perish. 2 swans that drank from the water of the Yggdrasil, and they were extraordinarily white. The mud beneath the well was the purest of the whitest shades, and the well of Erd was also the place of the gods to hold their court of justice. Every day the gods rode their horses to come to the well of Erd to hold court, except for Thor, who always rode his chariot pulled by 2 goats. That the gods used the well of Erd as their court of justice made us realize how important the well of Erd was to the Norse pantheon. Vergelmir, the hot spring boiler, is the first well to exist in the cosmos. The well is mentioned to lie in the land of the Niflheim, the land of frost and ice, long before the world was created. Somewhere nearby the well was Nidhogg, the serpent-like creature, the dragon who gnaws at the roots of the Yggdrasil with the hope of making the great tree of life collapse. But no matter how hard he tries to chew through the roots, the tree just stood as straight as it always did. Only during Ragnarok did the Yggdrasil tremble, for the sky broke. And then there is Mimis Burner, or Mimir's Well. And this is the last well in Yggdrasil to be mentioned. Mimir's Well was the well of wisdom, for it contained the holy water of knowledge and wisdom. And anyone who had the opportunity to try the water in the well would become omniscient. But only the ones who made a sacrifice to the well were allowed to try. Odin, the Allfather, once did a deal of trading his eye with Mimir, the guardian of the well, to have a drink of the holy water. Mimir was a very wise creature, for he drank from the water every day. And that is the 3 holy waters. I thought that Adahallen was the water that fed Mimir's well. I am wrong. But that's where I thought they were heading with that. Okay, so now we're going to go east and south to India.
Okay.
India. Currently, there are 7 rivers considered sacred in India. And I'm going to slaughter these names too. I'm so sorry. Ganges, Yamuna, Indus, Saraswati, Godavari, Narmada, and Kaveri. The Ganges River is the most sacred of the 7. The people believe that any religious devotee who takes a bath in the Ganges is forever forgiven of his sins. There are 100 of temples along the river. The Yamuna River, I'm so sorry. Hindu mythology includes a special mention of this river. According to legend, it is the source of a glacier lake known as Saptarishi Kund, where there is a temple dedicated to the goddess Yamuna and her sister Yama. Sister of Yama, the god of death. That is why people who take a bath in the holy waters of the river get rid of the fear of death. Interesting.
I would not fear death. I mean, I don't, but like, I fear my own death. It's different.
Right? Indus. The Indus River is the longest river in Asia, the most important one in Pakistan, and one of the main Hindu ones. The river has played a very important role during the Classic period. According to history, King Darius of Persia sent his subject Sycorax to explore the river in 510 BC. It took 30 months for his sailors to go down the river until it reaching the sea. So that's a very long river, 30 months to sail the entire length of the river.
How long is that?
That is 2.5 years.
You did that 2 years?
From the top of Persia to when it reached the sea. It's a really long river. The Saraswati River. Currently, this river does not have a complete physical existence. It is invisible. It is believed that it flows underneath the land surface, and the area where it is located is considered a holy spot for the Hindu people.
Nice.
Yeah. And then there is the Godavari River, the second longest river in the country. The Kumbh Mela festival, which is held in Nashik, is known as an important pilgrimage point in India due to the existence of the river. A bath in the holy water of the Godavari River releases any sin. It's a common thread in India. This is getting rid of the sins. Narmada River Narmada is a Sanskrit word. It means one who arouses tender feelings in others. According to legend, Narmada descended from the sky at the request of Shiva. Hindu mythology says that the river can release any human soul from all of his sins. Kaveri is a very sacred river in the southern region of India. Shiva Samadram falls located in Karnataka are one of the largest waterfalls in that country. Now we're going to move to Ireland. We all ready for that one? Okay. Many Christian churches were constructed near the pagan wells, and the early Celtic church used them to baptize until the Romans replaced them with fonts in front of the church. A number of old churches contain a crypt or a grotto that opens into a subterranean spring. This place, close to earth and water, is the innermost sanctum, the hidden holy center of the sacred enclosures. In Irish myth, wells and springs are depicted as the originating in the underworld, that parallel dimension whose inhabitants have power to control the natural forces of this world. From sources in the underworld, water flows into our world to fill springs or gush forth as rivers such as the Boyne or the Shannon. These bodies of water and others are closely identified with goddesses, the Boan and the Sinan, which I actually think is actually pronounced Shannon, for example, who are thought to be part of the water's flow. Such sacred water sources are often linked to certain fruit trees, such as the hazelnut. It is believed that drinking from these holy waters or bathing in them would bestow the power of the underworld in the form of poetic inspiration, wisdom, and healing.
That sounds fun.
Isn't it? Supernatural fish, especially the salmon or the trout, are still said to appear in the well's depths to those seeking omens for the future. The fish motif may derive from the belief that well goddesses could take the form of a fish. Also, salmon were often credited with being the bearers of Eomos, the light that illuminates, meaning the insight and wisdom that comes with the supernatural encounter rather than the knowledge acquired through conventional study. It is the idea that if you stare deep enough into a well and a fish appears to you, it will grant you supernatural knowledge. I like it. It is a very Celtic idea. You don't find that in other cultures. In other cultures go, if you stare into the river, it will absolve you of your sins, because you'll figure out that, the flow of the river is kind of like the flow of life, and it washes and cleanses you as it travels through its journey. The Celts go, if you stare at the right spot, a fish will pop up and tell you the secrets of the world.
That's a lot of.
Yeah, that's Celts. So if you want to know, I have a huge list of sacred wells in each county of Ireland. So in Clare, I'm just going to run through these super quick. Stop me if you want to hear them. In Clare, we have the St. Bridget's Well, Mog Adhair, Eye Well, Tooth Well, Margaret's Well, St. Augustine's Well. In Cork is St. Olan's Well, Torbid's Well, Ballinspittle, Inchigeela, Sunday's Well, and Mary's Well. St. Finbarr's Well. In Donegal is Dunes Well. In Kerry is the Well of the Weathers, St. Dolan's, St. John, St. Eric, St. Owen, St. Michael, and the Lady Well. In Kildare is Earl's Well, St. Bridget's Well, and Father Moore's Well. In the County Meath is Tober Patrick, St. John's Well, and Tara, which is also Naimnock, Toberfin, and Lake. In Roscommon County is Tober Oglala, St. Lacer, and St. Trachta. In Sligo is Tabernot, St. Bridget's Well, Tullagan, to St. Patrick's Well, and the Bog. The Bog is actually pretty important. So, sacred wells. Springs and wells also took the form of sacred fountains, which claim to have been found or not found. Of course, there is the Fountain of Youth. We all know about the Fountain of Youth. It was believed to be discovered in Florida by Ponce de Leon around 1513, although there is no proof of that anywhere. There was also a fountain of, or a well of knowledge, or a fountain of immortality in China at Pon Lai. It was believed to confer 1,000 years to those who drank from it, although some say it was 1,000 lives, some say it was 1,000 years. Who knows? According to Wang Chai, writing in the Qin dynasty and a similar reputation was attached to the springs of Mount Laoshan. In the New Testament, St. John describes the pool of Bethesda in Jerusalem, surrounded by 5 covered colonnades, where a great number of disabled people used to lie, the blind, the lame, the paralyzed, waiting to be the first to enter the pool when the water is stirred. When, in the mid-19th century, after St. Bernadette's vision of the Virgin Mary, the water issuing from the grotto at Lourdes began to bring about cures in people, the spring was designated a place of miracles. And there you have it. That is what I have found on sacred wells and springs and rivers and waters in general. The only thing I did not find any information on is the Nile itself.
The Nile's hard to find information.
The Nile is a really interesting river. It flows backwards.
Yeah.
It flows from south to north instead of from north to south. Almost every other river in the world flows that way. The other one is the Amazon. There are places in the Amazon where it flows north to south instead of south to north. Or south to north instead of north to south. The Nile is said to be the source of all life, but then so is the Tigris and the Euphrates. Okay. The Tigris and the Euphrates is known as the cradle of life, and it is, I'm almost done. I'm going to come out there. Looks amazing. That's my dinner call. The Tigris and Euphrates actually is in biblical scripture. It is said that when Adam and Eve were thrown out of the garden, that is where God placed them, where the Tigris and the Euphrates meet in that valley. Hence, it's known as the cradle of life. These are important rivers, at least in my world. On the Nile is said to have several temples along it, to be the source of life, but the reason it's called the source of life is that every year it floods and the Nile Valley and everything around it becomes fertile because the river floods onto it.
Sorry.
The Amazon also, there are places along it that are super, super important to the indigenous tribes there and very, very sacred. And literally, people will kill you if you go there, and I don't have any information on them. So like, subscribe, hit the button, ring the bell, tell your friends, spread the message, boost the signal. Can't stop the signal, Mal. I hope this worked on Facebook. I have no way of knowing yet. I am leaving now because half an hour is what I get now. It's actually hard for me to breathe. I'm going to go rest for the next 2 hours. You guys have a good night. I love you all. And I will see you next week.